critical thinking is the ability for a person to set aside their own personal bias long enough to evaluate the issue at hand in an objective way before they form a judgment. And this is a dying art, apparently. I know millennials and Generation Y, or what are we up to? Generation Z? Are having some trouble with this. And the older generations are losing this ability. I think it's like a disease, a mental rot that is affecting the entire country right now. But anyway, so in the course of talking about critical thinking and setting aside your own personal bias long enough to listen to the other side, hear what they have to say, and then form your judgment when you can take all of the information, your own personal beliefs, their beliefs, put it all together, and from that draw your conclusion. Here's how I think. People are talking about, do I support Trump? Do I not support Trump? To me, it's rather irrelevant. It's not about Donald Trump. And that's the point I keep trying to make in these videos that people are not catching. This is not about Donald Trump. It's not about Hillary Clinton. It's not about Barack Obama. What matters are the fundamental principles of liberty. That's what we should be supporting. At least that's the primary thing we should be supporting. Sure, you can defend a political candidate. I do the same thing. I like Rand Paul. I defend him in political debates, but what we have to do is figure out what the principles are and stand in defense of those principles. For example, the Bill of Rights covers a bunch of things that are God-given rights, that are inalienable, that are so important that the founders said we have to enshrine these rights. We need to name them one by one and say that these are rights that are to be defended, that the federal government cannot encroach upon these rights. So when we look at, for example, the First Amendment, free speech, freedom of liberty, freedom of the press, right to assemble, right to petition the government for redress of grievance. So if you start out, if you form your political opinions based on principles first, you would, for example, know that preserving free speech is an important principle. Now, if you start out defending that first, defending the principle of free speech first, if you have been supporting a particular candidate, and all of a sudden this candidate starts saying, I believe we need to restrict free speech. If you are loyal first to the principle, what are you going to do? You're going to either go to this candidate and say, hey, you're wrong. You need to get straight on this. I'm not going to support you if you're going to be against free speech. Or you just come right out and oppose them and criticize them. Maybe you don't throw them away completely. You say, I support so-and-so on this, but boy, do I sure disagree with them on this. All right? You take a neutral or balanced approach. But here's the problem if you put your defense first in the politician. When that politician who you totally support comes out and says, I'm against free speech, if your loyalty is first to that politician, what are you going to do? You're going to start defending that politician against those who say that freedom of speech should be sacrosanct. You're going to start adopting your politician's argument saying, you know, there are reasons that we should curtail freedom of speech. And you have become part of the problem. Do you see what I'm saying? Put principles first. If your candidate aligns himself or herself to those principles, awesome. But if they don't, have the moral fortitude and the emotional strength to say, no, not in my name. I will not give you my campaign dollars. I will not give you support. I will not put your sign in my yard. And I'm not going to sing your praises in social media if you turn against freedom of speech. I am not going to support you if you go to war in Syria. That, to me, is why it is so important to read our founding documents. Read the Declaration of Independence. It's not very long. Read the U.S. Constitution. You can do it in about 20 minutes. Read the Bill of Rights. If you're really into it, go back and read the Principles in the Mayflower Compact is a good one. But learn the founding principles and be loyal and fiercely defensive of those principles. And if you have and then you shop for your politician based on that. You shop for your candidate based on how well they match up to these principles that you support. Visit blackstoneintel.com and click on the store button to visit my online shop. Your purchase gives me financial support and gives you some really nice looking swag. That's blackstoneintel.com.
If you appreciate hard-hitting investigative journalism that you won't get from the mainstream media, then please support Jake's research and analysis at patreon.com/endtimesnewsreport, paypal.me/endtimesnewsreport, or send a check or money order to Jake Morphonios, P.O. Box 1333, Kernersville, North Carolina 27285.